Hello and welcome back to part 2 of my genetics tutorial. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I highly recommend it if you do not have any clue on how genetics work. In this video we're gonna have a look at the different dilutions and patterns that the horses can have in ETG and how they are inherited. So let's just get started with the cream dilution I already talked a little bit about in part 1. So as I already said in part 1, the cream is responsible for colors like palomino, buckskin or smoky black, but also cremello, smoky cream and the perlino. And we're now going to have a look at how the genetics of all those versions of the cream affected horses actually look like. So first of all, we have to make a differentiation between whether our horses now have one copy of the cream allele or two copies, because for the cream allele there's something special about it, which is some kind of co-dominance of genes. So the cream gene itself is not entirely dominant, but the non-cream allele still has an impact in how far the cream gene actually is expressed. So in general, the cream gene makes our horses lighter and gives them this creamy tone, but the extent of this varies depending on whether it has one or two copies of this cream allele. In our first part, we already talked about the base colors, black, bay and chestnut, because it depends on how the horses then look if they have a cream gene on their base color. So let's just start with a black that has one copy of the cream allele. So we see this horse has one copy of the extension allele that is dominant and two recessive agouti alleles, so it is a black on its base color. But we now also see that there is this gene here that says CR, and then we have this white spot. Again, the white here just means it's the allele for the non-cream version. And here we see a black that has one copy of the cream allele, actually is a smoky black that looks like this. So just the black that is a little bit more lighter. Then for the bay version of the cream dilution with only one copy of the cream allele, we would have a buckskin. I sadly don't have a buckskin. I'll just show you one in the horse creator, and if we look at the genetics of this horse, which is a dun skin, which is basically a buckskin with a dun allele, we basically have similar genetics. So we just look here. We see we have a bay base because we have at least one extension allele that is dominant and one agouti allele that is dominant here, and we also have one cream allele that is visible here. So this is basically what a buckskin would look like. And now we still have the chestnut with the cream allele, which would be our very famous palomino. Right, so here we see we have no extension allele that is dominant. We only have the two recessive versions. The agouti allele here again doesn't matter. And here we have the cream allele again. So this would be the three versions horses would have depending on their base colors if they have one copy of the cream allele. Okay, so what happens now if we have two cream alleles is that the cream alleles are no longer affected by the non-cream allele, so they can express in their full power, let's just say, and our horses become very light and, well, creamy. Starting with the black version, we have the smoky cream. It's the darkest of all of them, and it somehow looks like this. Here you can see we have the code for our black horse again, and we have 2 of the cream alleles. For the Palino, you already see it's slightly lighter than the smoky cream, and if we look at the genetics, we see we have the bay code as the base here again, and then we have those 2 cream alleles. Now, normally in real life, as you see, we still have a dun gene here. We'll come in a second to what dun is. Normally, this would also affect the horse, but in ETG, if you have a horse with 2 copies of the cream allele, it will basically not display any of the other alleles that could still influence the horse. Only the patterns, but not any dilutions. So it's in ETG, it will still have the gene and be able to pass it on to their offsprings, but it's not going to be visible. Because if you look at this horse now, it should have a dun gene and allele, and normally duns have a dorsal stripe, so a slight stripe on the back, and here you see it doesn't have a stripe, even though it should have. But here it's just not that complex because ETG is probably not able to make so many different textures for all the versions our horses can have. And here we now have a cremello, which is of course the chestnut with 2 cream alleles. This mare is currently in breeding, so I can't show her to you entirely, but we just need the genetics, and I can also just give you a picture of her. So here we see again, she does also have the chestnut base coat and those 2 cream alleles. She also has a dun, which I just saw by the way, but you also don't see it expressed in her phenotype, is called what you actually see on the horse. So the dun gene is not expressed here because of the cream also. And yeah, this is basically it about the cream gene already, and let's just look at the dun now. I already talked a lot about now, kind of. So for the dun, you don't have to make a differentiation between whether you have 1 or 2 copies. It's just the normal way I taught you before. So it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 2 dominant alleles there, the expression is going to be the same. It's different in its inheritance then, I'll come to that later, but it doesn't affect the phenotype. So for the black version, we would have the Gruolo, or in ETG they also have a shade of a Gruolo that is called Lobo Dun, just to have that mentioned. But in general, they look like this, so they are basically black and have a darker shade on the head and the legs, and their body is slightly lighter, so this is like some kind of gray here. And if you can also see that on his back, he also has the so-called dorsal stripe I already mentioned, and also some stripes on his legs, so that is very characteristical for dun horses. Now if we look at his genetics, we see he is a black horse and he has 1 copy of the dun allele in this case. Now for the bay and a dun allele, we have the so-called bay dun. They call it in ETG, I think. It's also, I think, the common term for them. So you see he has also a darker head and legs. He also has the stripes, and his body is also slightly, lighter than a real bay. It's very similar to a buckskin, but the buckskin normally doesn't have these stripes, and the face should also not be so dark shaded, so there's still a difference you should be able to make. And if we look at his genetics, he has the bay genetics and the dun allele here also. Now coming to the chestnut version of the dun, which I'm really haunted by, to be honest, because I'm generally haunted by chestnuts and lately also by duns. Hold on, here. This is a good example. This is a dun. You see it becomes like more reddish and a little bit orangish. But yeah, it's just an even lighter version of a chestnut, I'd say. Here you would also have these stripes on her. It's not so well visible because she still has the Tobiano pattern, but it would still exist. And if we look at her genetics, she is a chestnut and has the dun gene. Perfect. So what is still possible is that your horse has both cream and dun. If your horse is a cremello, a Polino, or a smoky cream, so it has 2 copies of the cream allele, you will not see in its phenotype, so in its code, that it actually still has a dun allele, or also 2, it doesn't matter, as we already said, because there's no texture for that. But if your horse has only 1 cream allele, those 2 dilutions will basically add up with each other. So the horse in itself will become a little bit more lighter, just still. I'm just going to show you a couple of examples on that too and how they look like. I'm not going to show you their genetics because I think it should be clear by now what they look like. So first of all, we have a smoky grollo, it's called, at least in this kind of shade here. Then we would have a dun skin for the bay version, which looks pretty similar to the normal dun or buckskin as well. And this would be what a Dunalino looks like, so the chestnut version of a horse with cream, 1 cream allele and 1 or 2 dun alleles. Then there's still a very special version of the dun if it comes with a Pangaré allele on a bay horse, which basically makes the coat all the Norwegian fjords have. In real life, I highly doubt that it's like that, but in ETG it is like that. So I'm just going to show you that really quick. So here I have my Fjord horse, and if we look at his genetics, he is a bay, he has a dun allele, and he has 2 Pangaré alleles. The Pangaré allele is also dominant, as you can see, so it's enough if it has only 1 of them. This is basically also what the genetics of my Grand Prix horse Veneto look like. He's a Swedish warmblood, and I bred this combination into him basically as well. You can have this combination of Pangaré and dun on any horse, but it's only gonna affect the horse like this if it's on a bay base. If it's on a black or a chestnut, the horse will most likely still show the dun if it's not inhibited by, for example, a double cream, but you're not gonna see the Pangaré. So as we're already talking about the Pangaré here, basically, as I already said, the Pangaré is not going to show on any horse, besides if your horse is a bay with a dun allele, or if your horse is a chestnut and has a Flaxen allele. So Flaxen is basically an allele that is only affecting chestnut horses, which is the reason why their mane becomes very light. I can just show you that in an example. Let me see if I find a good one. Here, for example, Spotlight. He has a very blonde mane, even if he in this part is not affected by his Tobiano pattern. So this is basically what Flaxen does. Flaxen does this, very, very light mane on chestnuts. And if your horse then also has the Pangaré, it is gonna look like my horse Medusa, who's currently in breeding, but I'll also show you a picture of her, which makes her look like Haflinger. And this is basically also the genetics that the Haflingers all have, I guess, even though I never owned one. By the way, in real life, the Flaxen is a recessive allele, so your horse needs actually 2 alleles of the Flaxen in order to have that mane. In Equestrian, the game, the Flaxen is a dominant gene. Don't ask me why, but it is like that. Just so that you know. Great, so in case I haven't forgotten anything, that was it for the coat colors. Now we're coming to the eye color. I just have to say, when it comes to the eye color, there is no scientific similarities that are so easy to find. So this is just based on what I have observed, and I'm not entirely sure whether this is really like that, but I'm just going to show you what I have found to be, well, some rules for the inheritance of eye color. Alright, so for the eye color, let's just start in the horse creator, because there I can show you the differences between all the different eye colors, like in detail. We just have to choose a random horse that has no special color, and here we have a selection out of 5 different colors. So first of all, we have amber, which is somewhat greenish but still brown, you know. Then we have this dark brown, and we have this chocolate brown, which is even darker. Then we have a dark green and still a hazel color. And I have found 2 genes that are responsible for these, and where some rules are really applicable to these eye colors. However, I cannot guarantee you that this is entirely correct, because this is just the method that ETG has chosen to use, and I cannot rely on any scientific facts that would also help me trying to find these patterns. So for the dark brown and dark chocolate, I'm pretty sure about the genetics. If we have a look at this tab here, we see still this gene here that we haven't looked at yet. And here we have a big B standing, which is dominant, and if we look at his eye color, it's much darker than her eye color. Not much, but you can see difference here. Her eyes are slightly more brown, and if we look at her genetics, she only has those 2 small b's. So apparently this has to be the gene that makes the eyes just darker. Now, why I'm assuming that this is for the eye color, it just fits. I have checked it for every little one of my horses, and there's also no gene left apart from this that would be able to affect the coat in any way. So yeah, basically that. Then for the green eyes, I have a very simple example, I have a lot of horses with green eyes here. So this is the first one. He is not affected by the darker eye color, and he has an additional gene where it says GR, and I guess that is green. I wouldn't know what else it's supposed to say. And we also see that his eyes are really green. We can even see it better in the sidebar. And this applies also to, for example, Rocker. She also has those green eyes. When it comes to the hazel and amber color, I'm not entirely sure, because I'm not really sure which one of those Overo, for example, has. She has not the normal green eyes, I would say, because if we look in her genetics, she does not have a gene for green, or allele for green, but she has an allele saying BL, and I guess this is standing for blue. However, in the horse creator we cannot choose the eye color blue, so I'm not really sure if this makes sense. However, one of my horses and her offsprings also have blue eyes without any markings or conditions that would affect her like this. So here we see she has the gene for darker eyes and a blue gene, I'll just call it like that, and she has like either hazel or amber eyes, but I'm not sure which one it is. Esperanza here also has the same color and basically the same genetics for it, so I guess it's like this with this combination of genes. And I guess the problem is just that I don't have a horse that still has another combination. So this was either hazel or amber, but I'm not sure which one it actually is. So what I could imagine is that the hazel color, which is the, in my perspective, more green one, is just the green allele with the dominant brown allele, so it makes like the green even a little bit darker in its shade, and the amber color would then be what the horses I showed you have, with I think the capital B, so the dominant one, and the blue, but I'm not really sure about it. And then I still talked about my horse that has blue eyes. This is Magic Bubble, you might know her. So on her eye that is pointing to us, this is actually because of her marking, but her other eye has another color. Okay, so first of all, she has no dominant brown allele here and a blue, so this would probably stand for her blue eyes then. And if I go into here, we see that this eye is darker than her other eye. So I think this is really caused by her genes, while the other one is just caused by her by her face marking, you know? Now, if we look at horses that have two cream alleles, we will see that their pool of eye colors is a little bit different, and they have one color that is even more here. So I'm not really sure how to look at the genetics, but I could imagine that it's pretty similar to everything else. So maybe the pale gold would be the light brown could be the dark chocolate, the pale brown could be the dark brown, the pale green could be the green, the blue could be just the blue, and then those two could be either hazel or amber. But I have really no experience with that, so that's just a thought I had and just a thing that you might have to note. Okay, help guys, this video is taking way too long. I should have maybe put still some stuff into the first part, but it is how it is now. We only have the leg markings and the main style to go. So let's just pick a horse that can have every style. I'm not sure if there even is one. Let's see here about the main styles. Yes, so we have three, or not styles but type, actually hair type. So here we see we have thin, which is like very thin hair that's just falling down. Then we have lush, that's kind of a mixture between thin and the wavy stuff. And then we still have the wavy stuff, which is obviously just very wavy. And this has very simple genetics. So basically there are two alleles possible. They are called HT and HW. So the HT basically stands for hair thin, which then would result in or code for this kind of hair type. And HW would stand for hair wavy, which would stand for this kind of hair type. And if the horse has two of those, or one copy of wavy and one of thin, then it would have lush mane. And if it has two of thin, it would have thin. And if it has two of wavy, it would have wavy. So for the leg markings, let's just stay in the horse creator. It's also very simple. So we basically have 5 stages of how extremely our leg markings can be. So we have none, which would be 0. Then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And well, this works for every leg. And if we now have a look at the genetics of our horses, for example at Copper's genetics here, then we still have 4 genes that we haven't talked about yet. And you see they are quite similar. So we have BL, BR, FL and FR. And Those are the markings, the genes that determine the leg markings. So BL just stands for back left, BR for back right, FL for front left, and FR for front right. So you see, if we have two different alleles, the one that has the higher number is darker than the other one. And this number basically just indicates the level of the marking. So if we now have front right 4 and front right 2, the front right 4 will be expressed, and our horse has a maximum marking on that leg. If we look at copper, we see this is really the case here. And this also applies to all the other markings. For the BR, so the back right leg, we see that there's a white space. In this case, this just means the allele for non-leg marking, so that there is not a leg marking. Okay, just really quick, I just noticed that we forgot the Tobiano and Overo pattern, but it's actually very simple. So the Tobiano and the Overo alleles are both dominant, so yeah, you know how that's supposed to work. And if the horse has both Tobiano and Overo, its coat will even be more white, just basically, and you call that Tovero. I do not know anything about how the exact pattern is made, so there's no gene for that you could actually see. So in how far does it help you to know which genes stand for which color if you want to breed your dream horse? So basically, if you know that, you can also look at a specific color you want to breed and then have a look at the different combinations of genes that this color would require in order to be shown on the horse. So then you can have a look at your parents and see if with this combination of them it is even possible to breed that color. Because, for example, if you want to breed a chestnut, it would be very silly of you, to just have that said, to breed two blacks that have both two copies of the capitalized E, or at least one of the parents would already be enough, because like that, their offspring will definitely have, depending on which combination you now choose, have one or two dominant copies of the extension alleles, no matter what. So there's never gonna be a chestnut that can come out of this combination. Or if you want to breed a double cream horse, you can't just breed a Palomino to a bay horse or something and hope a double cream comes out of it, because you would have to breed at the least a Palomino with another Palomino or another like smoky black or buckskin in order to have a 25% chance of getting a double cream. However, if you now bred, for example, a Cremello with a Cremello, we have two cream alleles again on both sides of our parents, so both the mother and the father are going to pass on the cream allele with a chance of 100% because they only have the cream allele to pass on, so the offspring will have two cream alleles by 100%. And like this we can just maximize our chances and reduce the combinations of horses to very specific ones in order to breed the horses that we really want, and this is just way more efficient like this. Okay, this video has taken way too long, I'm sorry about it. I probably should have just cut it in 3 parts or something. Anyway, if you found yourself enjoying the video and learned something today, I'd be really happy if you liked the video and subscribed to my channel, since it took me all day to record and edit those 2 parts, so it would just be great to see that it actually helps somebody. And if you have any further questions, just leave them down in the comments. I'll try to answer everything. Apart from this, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!